Hey guys, I'm Mute. I'm a Japanese guy who works as an office worker in Tokyo and just loves Studio Ghibli's works. In addition, the speech reading software may make the speech sound bland, but I myself wrote the text with a passionate heart, so I hope you will be kind enough to watch and listen. In this video, I would like to introduce you to Studio Ghibli's Laputa Castle in the Sky, a great adventure film directed by Hayao Miyazaki. It's no exaggeration to say that every Japanese person has seen this masterpiece at least once, but how about the world as a whole? Among Hayao Miyazaki's works, Spirited Away, which won an Academy Award, is famous, but there are probably many people who have never seen this film. That's why I'd like to let people all over the world know more about this film through YouTube, using machine translation. That's why I made this video. In this video, I'm going to tell you the whole story from beginning to end. It's full of spoilers. So if you don't want to know how the story unfolds, please stop here. But first, let me assure you that the fun of this movie will not fade away if I tell you the story here. I've probably seen this movie 50 times myself, and I'm still not tired of it. It is such an interesting and tasteful animation movie. After explaining the story, I will give my own analysis and commentary, as well as the message of this movie, so please watch it until the end. If you haven't seen this movie yet, or are wondering if you should, I hope this video will spark your interest and inspire you to see the actual film. Also, I will be speaking from the original Japanese version of the film, so there may be some differences in the words and phrases that are translated into other countries. Please be aware of this. Here we go. Let's get to it. First of all, let me tell you what this movie is about. The key words Flying Stone and Laputa in the title are the two most important words in this movie. The Flying Stone is the name of a special ore that exists in the world of this movie. It is a type of ore, but it has the special property of floating in the sky. Laputa is an artificial island that floats in the sky using the Flying Stone. It is the name of a country that prospered using the Flying Stone as its base, and is considered a legend in the world of art. The name of the country that prospered on the island is considered a legend in the world of the work. For people from Western countries, it may be easier to understand if we say that it is similar to the legend of Atlantis or Mu. There is a theory that Atlantis was also a super ancient civilization, and that science was developed there. In the same way, Laputa was a scientific civilization that died out, and moreover, it was a country located on an island in the sky. I remember how excited I was when I saw this movie for the first time as a boy, just from this setting. The setting is an imaginary world, and there is no indication of which country in which time period. However, tanks and airplanes exist, and suits and uniforms appear as clothing. I think the closest environment is somewhere in Europe around 1930. Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark are set in 1936. It may be easier to understand if you think of it as being around that time. However, perhaps due to the influence of Laputa, aviation technology has advanced more than the present day in some areas. So-called airships, which appear in the Final Fantasy series of video games, have appeared in the sky. There are also single-seater machines that can hover and fly like a dragonfly. The original design of these machines is one of the highlights of the work. The story is about a machine that can fly like a dragonfly. The story begins with a scene of an attack on an airship flying in the sky. The airship looks like a tourist ship, but there is a girl locked in a room staring out the window at the clouds. This is the heroine of this story, Sita. Her character is serious and intelligent, not flashy, but her core strength can be glimpsed in many places. She has a girlish appearance with braids and a red catsuit. She wears a navy dress that is not flashy at all, and wears a flying stone around her neck that has been handed down in her family for generations. She was still young but living alone, probably because her family had passed away, grazing in the mountains like in Switzerland. She is a girl who has inherited from her parents a flying stone necklace that has been handed down in the family for generations and a mysterious word that looks like a spell. Then, some people jump from another airship and attack the airship that Sita is riding in. The goal was the necklace of flying stones that Theta holds. A group of gentlemen in suits and dark glasses fight the attack, but they are thwarted by the skillful movements of the pirates and soon reach the front of Theta's room. The boss of these pirates is an old lady named Dora, who is called Mama by everyone. She must be quite old, but she is wearing pink braids. She is very smart and has a charisma that allows her to follow a number of well-bent men, making her a very attractive character despite being an enemy. Just when you think Sita is too frightened to move, she makes a bold move by hitting a man with dark glasses, later known as Colonel Muska, in the head with a bottle from behind, who is in the same room calling for help over the radio. Huh? Aren't the pirates the enemy and the gentleman in dark glasses the allies? You'd think so, wouldn't you? Yes, as you can see from this action, they were both enemies who were after Sita for the flying stone. Sita tried to escape to the next room, but the pirates found her, and just as she was loosening her grip, I fell headlong out of the airship. Of course, I was not wearing a parachute. But after falling for a while, the flying stone I had around my neck showed its power. Sita's body, which had been falling naturally, seemed to float in the air for a moment as if it emitted a dazzling light during the fall, and the fainted Sita slowly fell toward the ground. Dora, the female boss of the pirates who were aiming for the flying stone, watched the moment carefully. The scene changes and we are in a mining town. Pazu, the protagonist of the film, is a young apprentice boy in his teens, working for his master who runs a coal mine and managing to make a living on his own. He is dressed like an old English poor working class man, wearing a hat that looks like an Oliver Twist. That day, while working near the entrance to the coal mine, Pazu saw a light slowly descending from the sky. As he approached, he saw a strange sight. A girl was falling from the sky. Yes, this girl was Sita, who had just jumped from the airship. The catchphrase of this movie at the time of its release was "One day, a girl fell from the sky." This is a very excellent catchphrase. The encounter between the two in this scene is the beginning of everything, and it is also a famous scene with beautiful and emotional images and music, while containing a mystery that foreshadows the great adventure ahead. As soon as Pazu puts his hands on Sita's falling path,
I'm sure you're getting tired of the monotonous voice of the text-to-speech system, so I'd like to change your voice here. This voice is Ivy. Nice to meet you. Let's continue. The next morning, Sita wakes up to the sound of trumpet music coming from outside and realizes that she has been sleeping in a bed in some unknown room. In this scene, Sita unconsciously grasps the pendant on her chest to make sure that the flying stone is still there. In other words, this is where she trusts the boy, Pazu, for not stealing it while she was sleeping. It's a short scene without any dialogue, but it gives a proper persuasive power to the soft atmosphere that flows between the two afterwards. Such minute information can be conveyed just by looking at the screen. Giving such detailed direction to the characters' performances is one of the great things about Miyazaki. That's why he insisted on broadcasting his films completely uncensored on TV. As for Miyazaki's other works, it's the scenes without dialogue that you should definitely pay attention to and watch the actors' performances. Now, the source of the trumpet sound was Pazu. He lives alone in a small house on the edge of a cliff, and one of his roles is to fly his white pigeon and blow a trumpet to announce the morning to the mining town. This scene of Pazu's bugle call is just as good. The sound of the trumpet blowing high into the sky as the white pigeons fly happily, bathed in the morning light, towards the coal mining town below. It is a scene worthy of welcoming a refreshing morning and hopeful enough to announce the start of an adventurous journey. This boy, Pazu, had a dream. His dream is that somewhere in this vast sky there exists an island called Laputa, and that one day he would like to visit it. It wasn't just a vague dream, it was also his father's dying wish. His father was an adventurer. Before he died, he had gone on a quest to find Laputa, which no one believed in, and had come very close, barely taking a single photo. However, although his father was able to take a picture of Laputa, he died in the middle of his aspirations after people accused him of being a fraud. Because of this, Pazu wants to inherit his father's dream, fulfill his dream, and regain his father's honor. So he designs and assembles his own airplane at home, and we see glimpses of him doing so. There is also a scene where Pazu explains about Laputa. In Gulliver's Travels, Swift writes about Laputa, but it's just a fantasy. It's just a fantasy, Pazu explains. Gulliver's Travels. I was just explaining that this setting is fantasy, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to have something in common with our own world. By the way, did you know that there is a real person named Nicholas Flamel in the world of Harry Potter? Flamel was a real person in 14th century France, and he was an alchemist. Although he did not end up smelting gold, he discovered 33 elements, and the law of conservation of mass in the process, and is said to have laid the foundation for later chemistry. According to legend, Flamel was the one who succeeded in producing the Philosopher's Stone, which is also the subtitle of the first Harry Potter movie. The Philosopher's Stone is said to have the power to make people immortal and to turn non-metals into gold, and in the Harry Potter books, it appears as a stone that grants its owner's wishes. J.K. Rowling has shown that the power of the Elixir Stone is real by bringing the 14th century Nicholas Flamel into the modern world of Harry Potter. After all, she is no ordinary person either. In the same way, Hayao Miyazaki also used the technique of mixing real works with his original worldview here. Gulliver's Travels is a famous travel novel written by the Irishman Jonathan Swift, about a ship doctor named Gulliver who gets lost at sea and ends up on a dwarf island. In the original story, Gulliver stops at the Island of Giants, the Island of Wizards, the Island of Horse People, and even Nagasaki, Japan, after the Island of Dwarfs. This is probably where Hayao Miyazaki got his inspiration for this film. The encounter with Sita, who came down from the sky, was a ray of hope for Pazu, as she foresaw that it might lead to Laputa. As he did so, he saw the pirates who had attacked the airship outside the window looking for Sita. Seeing this, Sita tries to run away, leaving Pazu behind, but he runs off with Sita because of Laputa and because he wants to save Sita more than anything. Later, with the help of the people he knew in the town where he lived, he was able to escape, but in the end he was cornered. Then, a tank appeared. Pazu is relieved that he was saved by the army, but the men with dark glasses who took Sita away and put her on the airship come down from inside. The men in dark glasses seem to be part of the army. When Sita sees them, she tries to escape again, but is unable to do so and falls into a big hole in the coal mine with Pazu. The hole is so deep that you can't even see the bottom. They are in a desperate pinch. But then Sita's flying stone shines again. During the fall, the flying stone emits a bright light and the speed of the fall decreases rapidly. This time, she is still conscious and slowly descends into the depths of the big hole while holding hands with the two of them. The pirates and the man with the dark glasses were watching the scene closely. When they landed at the bottom, they met an eccentric man named Grandpa Palm. He was an acquaintance of Pazu's and knew the terrain around here. After escaping from the pirates, they set up a tent in the cave and take a break to eat. In this scene, Pazu is eating so well. It's strange that something as simple as a fried egg on a piece of bread can look so delicious, but Miyazaki's movies always have scenes of people eating, and they all look so delicious that it's become a pattern for people to drool over them. Then I heard information about flying rocks from Grandpa Palm. The rocks in this area contain flying rocks. The necklace that Sita holds is a rare crystal of an amphibolite. The Laputans were the only people who had the technology to crystallize it, and they were able to make the island float in the sky. And that powerful stones can make people happy, but they can also bring misfortune. When Sita inherited the flying stone from her parents, she confided in Pazu that she had also inherited an old secret name. That name is Lasita. Lasita Tol o Laputa. In other words, it is revealed here that Sita is a descendant of the Laputans. The flying stone that Sita holds has a winged family crest-like mark on it. That was the symbol of the Laputans. I've never seen an island like that before. I'll do it. I'm sure I'll find Laputa. Pazu is convinced of the existence of Laputa, which has been considered a legend until now, and he sets a clear goal to renew his desire for Laputa. However, shortly after this, Pazu and Sita are once again surrounded by the army as they leave the mining cave, and are captured and taken to the army base. They are taken to a military base. At the military base, there is a top man in dark glasses named Colonel Muska, who is the leader of the project to explore Laputa under secret orders from the government. Oh! This Muska becomes the villain who stands in front of the two main characters, as their greatest enemy. He looks like a very smart gentleman, but his personality is ruthless and cruel, and he sometimes looks down on people. Why does he know so much about Laputa and why is he so obsessed with it? That mystery will be revealed later on. The ruthless Muska with his army and the tough Dora the Explorer with her charming pirates. It's interesting to see the contrast between these two opposing forces. Sita was locked up in the base, but she was treated politely. Why? Because the flying stone that Theta was holding was not only a power to levitate, but also a key to show the way to Laputa, and in order for the key to be effective, a certain spell had to be cast, and Muska predicted that Theta would know the spell. Theta resisted, saying that she did not know such a spell, but agreed to cooperate with the army on the condition that she would release Pazu if she cooperated. The man named Muska seemed to have studied Laputa in great detail, and knew the name that Sita had inherited from her parents. He also knew the meaning of that name. Lasita Tol Laputa. Uru is the Laputa word for king. Tol means true. You are the rightful heir to the throne of Laputa, Princess Lasita. This was the truth about Sita that even Sita herself did not know. Now, as a side note, Tol is probably a derivative of true. Means king. There was a city-state of the same name in ancient Mesopotamia. Was a Sumerian dynasty that flourished around 4000 BC, in the area that is now Iran. Incidentally, Abraham of the Old Testament is said to have been born here and traveled to the land of Canaan from here. It's not clear if the Laputa word is related to the name of this city-state, but it might be interesting to think that the name is based on the sound of the ancient language. Muska showed her something. It was a robot. It had long hands, short legs, a thick chest plate and a small head, an unbalanced design that did not resemble a human form. Furthermore, if you look at the chest, you can see a small mark. It was the same mark that was printed on Sita's flying stone, and in other words, it was probably the mark of the Laputans. This robot was said to have suddenly fallen from the sky one day. The fall of this robot from the sky, which was supposed to be empty, made people believe in the existence of Laputa, and the rumors and legends about the many treasures lying there led the government to invest a lot of money and manpower, even the military, to discover Laputa. The robot seems to be malfunctioning and does not move. According to Muska, Laputa's soldiers have tremendous destructive power, and no earthly science can determine what materials they are made of. It is said that Laputa is not a treasure island, but that it once ruled the earth with its scientific power. Although Muska's true intentions were unclear, Sita really didn't think she knew any spells.
I'll change my voice again to try it out. Which voice is easier for you to hear? By the way, the girl's voice is Ivy, and this voice is Matthew. In the meantime. On the other hand, Pazu is told to back off by Sita, given a gold coin, and asked by Sita to forget about Laputa. When he returns home, he finds that the pirates are having dinner. Pazu is threatened by Dora, the leader of the pirates, who is called Mama by everyone, for failing to protect Sita. In the midst of this, Dora grasps that the army has called in a flying battleship by listening in on the army's signal. In the midst of trying to leave immediately because it becomes impossible to touch the flying stone if it doesn't hurry, Pazu said, "I'm not going to be able to get my hands on it. I want to help Sita." Thinking that this might get Sita to listen to him, Dora takes Pazu with her and leaves for the military base. The movie's original vehicle used here is also very attractive, a compact airplane that can hold up to 2 people. It has dragonfly-like wings that flap at high speed, allowing it to move freely independent of its flight speed, and has the advantage of being able to hover and stop at a point in the air. Also, since there is no seat, the vehicle is designed to be ridden standing up, and if you do not hold the steering wheel firmly with both hands, you will be blown backwards immediately. This disadvantageous structure creates a thrilling scene during the rescue of Sita. The military prepares to depart in a flying battleship. This flying battleship is as huge as a military fortress, and is called Goliath. Incidentally, the name Goliath appears in the Old Testament as a giant soldier of the Philistine army who was about 3 meters tall. In the battle between the Philistine army and the Israelite army, Goliath was the representative of the Philistine army. Everyone was afraid of Goliath's size, and no one wanted to challenge him to a battle. In this single combat, David defeated Goliath and gained fame, which led to his becoming the famous King David. Speaking of King David, it is one of the most famous works of the sculptor Michelangelo. That work is actually said to be based on the motif of David's confrontation with Goliath, and in his hand he is holding the stone he used in the battle. A battleship named after a giant who was defeated by a hero. The fate of the ship is predictable when it is named after such a bad omen. Incidentally, the same name was used for the remote-controlled bomb delivery vehicles used by the German army in World War II. At the military fortress, Sita was gazing out the window and tracing her old memories. Yes. Sita, let me tell you something good. A spell for trouble. Old, secret words. It was her grandmother's words that Sita had heard when she was a child. Ria te latverita ullis. Arialos bar netoral. Save me, and let the light rise. Since means king in Laputa, I guess the Eurus in Lit Latverita Eurus means king. I still think it sounds similar to some European countries. If you have a language that is close, please let me know in the comments. Sita remembers the words and mutters them in a small voice. Lit latoverita ullis. Arialos bar netoral. At that moment, the flying stone on her chest emitted the most powerful light she had ever seen. Muska immediately rushed to the scene and grasped that the spell he was looking for had been cast. The light shone strongly for a while, then turned into a ray of light and stretched toward a point in the sky. It became a compass that pointed in the direction of Laputa. The role of this stone, which had been handed down from generation to generation in Sita's family, was to guide the king back to Laputa. Then something unexpected happens. The robot soldier, who was thought to have malfunctioned and stopped moving, reacted to the spell and started moving. The robot soldiers began to beam out of their eyes, destroying the military fortress with ease. Sita took advantage of the chaos to run away from Muska and approach the robot soldiers. Meanwhile, Pazu and the pirates arrive. The military fortress is on fire like a war zone due to the destruction of the robot soldiers. As the smoke rises, Pazu's eyes catch sight of Sita. There was Sita clinging to the robot soldiers on top of the tower. This action scene is a must-see as they rescue Sita while avoiding the bombs flying from Goliath and the fortress. This is how they managed to get Theta back. The robot soldier was destroyed by a bombardment from Goliath in the middle of the rescue. The flying stone that pointed in the direction of Laputa was given to Muska, but Sita remembered the exact direction of the light that the flying stone pointed. I saw the sunrise from the tower where I was. It's the last mowing season, so the sunrise is moving a bit south of due east. The light pointed to the left edge of the hill where the sun rose, so. Excellent work, Sita. How many children can recognize the direction of light at a glance and give evidence of it? Pazu and Sita are allowed to travel together on the pirate's ship to Laputa on the condition that they do chores. Pazu and Sita's work on the pirate ship and their comical interactions with the pirates are also interesting. As night falls, Pazu goes on duty to the watchtower at the top of the airship and finds Sita secretly following him. A sea of clouds at night surrounded them, creating a nice atmosphere for the two of them to be alone. When I say just the two of them, I actually mean that Dora is secretly listening to their conversation through some kind of air tube. Sita says, "My grandmother taught me that." Sita said, "I can't believe that something like that happened because of a spell my grandmother taught me. There were many other spells that she taught me. I've been taught many other spells, to find things, to cure illnesses, and even some words that I should never use. Doomsday spells. They said that in order for a good spell to have power, you have to know the bad words, but never use them. I was so scared I couldn't sleep when they told me. Now, here comes the spell of perdition. This is a short incantation with only one word, balse, which every Japanese knows. Thinking back to the spell used to make the flying stone emit a light pointing to the location of Laputa. Lit latoverita ursus. Arialos bar netoral. It's much shorter than this. Balas. I'm sure I'll say it lightly at some point. Varus. It's no wonder you're so scared you can't sleep. Sita regrets letting the flying stone out. Well, in reality, Muska and the others took it away from her and took her away. But then Pazu says to her, "No, it's not. It's because of that stone that I was able to meet Sita. Even if you throw away the stone, Laputa won't disappear. Flight technology is advancing so fast that one day someone will find it. I don't know what to do yet, but if Laputa really is a horrible island, we can't let people like Muska have it." "That's cool, Pazu." After successfully debunking Sita's regrets, he prevents Laputa from falling into the wrong hands and affirms his encounter with Sita. He also affirms his encounter with Sita. "I'm sure when this is all over, I'll take you back to Gondor. I want to see it. I want to see the old house, the valley, the yaks, where Sita was born." This completely knocks Sita out. Pazu showed his man. "You're good, Pazu." As the two of them were getting into a good mood, Pazu remembered his duty and looked up to see that Goliath's battleship was right below them. The pirates' airship suddenly became tense, and although they struggled to escape from Goliath, they were hit by several shells. Goliath hides in the clouds when he sees that the pirates' airship has been hit by a cannonball. However, the pirate ship managed to hold on and did not crash. The watchtower that Pazu and Theta were standing on was equipped with a function that allowed it to be detached from the airship like a kite, so Pazu and Theta flew further up into the sky, leaving a single wire behind, and searched for Goliath from above. A few moments later, something extraordinary appears in front of them. It was a ridiculously large mass of clouds called the Dragon's Nest. The huge mass of clouds was the center of a low-pressure system, and the wind was blowing at a tremendous speed, but on the other side of the clouds, the wind was blowing in the opposite direction, and it looked so strange that it would destroy the airship in an instant if it were swallowed. Is it possible for the wind to blow in the opposite direction on the border of the clouds? I'm not sure if it actually happens, or if it's just depicted that way because it's impossible, but the cloud called the Dragon's Nest is trying to drag the airship down with a tremendous amount of wind. The pirate ship led by Dora tries to get away from it at full speed, but Pazu tells them, "Bridge. Bridge. Laputa's in here. My father saw Laputa in the Dragon's Nest. Come on, Auntie. That's the way Dad went. He's back." At that moment, Goliath appeared from the shadows of the clouds, and Dora's ship was hit by a deadly bombardment. One of the bullets hits the base of the kite that Pazu and Sita are flying, and the kite is ripped completely off the pirate ship and jumps straight into the Dragon's Nest. A fierce thunderstorm raged inside the Dragon's Nest, and the lightning that came from everywhere looked like a number of dragons. In a daze, Pazu managed to fly his kite through the clouds. Then, as if he suddenly lost consciousness, the background music and sound effects disappeared for a moment, and he saw a vision. It was Pazu's father, an adventurer chasing Laputa. Perhaps Pazu's father wanted to say to Pazu, "You've come this far." The second half of the movie is over. Now, in the second half of the movie, they finally arrive at Laputa. What will be the fate of the two of them? Please watch the rest of the movie.